Hi, PSY230. This is the weekly check-in for week 2. I'm very sorry that it's late. I've had a conference presentation that I've been working on, and so haven't been able to get to it till now. But basically, the thing I want to do in this video is just kind of give you an overview of what's coming this week. You can obviously see it on Canvas, but one of the things that I just kind of want to orient you to is that this often, if you're starting to feel it now, as you've started to do the problem set for chapter 4, and maybe even chapter 5, that's a place where most students tend to start to struggle a little bit at a minimum, only because it's usually stuff that students haven't done before. So a lot of the things that we've done up to this point, students have worked with graphs before. Typically, they've calculated an average, which we call the mean. So they've done some of that. So it wasn't all that new. Measures of spread, in our case, variance and standard deviation in particular, some students have done, but many may not have. And then those that have done it may not have calculated it the same way we do with that intermediate step of the sum of squares. So with that, if you're struggling a little bit, that's pretty normal. This is the place where Jay in the Social Behavior Learning Center will always comment. Usually it's chapter 4 when people start to show up on his doorstep asking for help. So I do want to remind you about Jay and the Social Behavior Learning Center, and that Jay will provide tutoring for this class. It's super helpful. And again, he often explains things, uses different examples than I do, and that can be really helpful. Other than that, so after we get to chapter 4, then we're almost done with all of our descriptive statistics. The next one that we cover is what's called a Z-score. A Z-score is actually going to combine, ultimately, chapter 3 and chapter 4. The best measure of center is the mean. The best measure of spread is the standard deviation as descriptive statistics. What a Z-score does is use those two things to identify where one person falls within the distribution. So a Z-score in that case in chapter 5 is going to be introduced to you as a descriptive statistic. What you will see is then we'll have our exam. Exam 1 covers just chapters 1 through 5. What I can tell you about exam 1 is that it is a combination of multiple choice and computational questions, and it will reflect the problem sets pretty closely. So you'll have all the tools you need to answer any of the questions on the exam. The exam is open book, open note. The main thing is that you need to be aware of is you have a 2-hour time limit. So you have to finish the exam within 2 hours. This is sort of me mimicking a class, what it would be like in class a little bit. And so I'm restricting the time. So you don't want to just go into it and feel like you have all the time in the world and you can find every answer. Instead, you want to go into it prepared, as if it were an in-person class where you didn't have your book and all that. In my in-person class, I usually allow students to have a cheat sheet. So that might be something you want to just have enough information to be ready for it. So it does take place on WebAssign. And so as soon as you start it, that clock starts running. And then you should see it. It looks, it'll function the same way, other than the timer, function the same way as our problem sets. One little hint that I'll give is that I think on this first exam, probably more people get questions wrong in the multiple choice than the computational, and that's somewhat true for a lot of the exams. So just be ready for some of the more definitional kind of questions, but some of those are also computational questions, but they're just in a multiple choice format. The multiple choice are each worth 2 points. And then the computational are worth 3 points. The one thing to know with the computational is you can get partial credit on the 3-point questions. And the way that can happen is if you upload work. And so if you're, as you do any of the questions, especially those computational questions, just show your work on a piece of paper. When you're done with your exam, you can scan that those papers that you did. You can do that if you have a scanner, but the other way that most students tend to do it is they use their phone. And if you have an iPhone, if you go to the Notes app, when you open up a note, there's a camera button. If you click on that, it will actually use the camera as a scanner. And so then you can put multiple pages into one document and then just upload that document. You upload it on WebAssign. There's an option at the very end. The last question says, do you want to upload any of your work? And then you can upload a file there. If you have any problems with that, always just then email me the files as well, just in case. And then, but other people, if you can't figure out how to, and there are also other apps you can buy that, again, turn your phone camera into a scanner. And that just, it saves space and it works a little bit better. But if you can't figure that out, or you don't have that ability, just take a picture of your notes and you can upload those pictures. So that's the exam, and you'll see that we'll end right with chapter 5. Going into next week, we're going to continue on with the Z-score, but it will be moving us towards inferential statistics. So by the time we hit chapter 8, we're using the Z-score technically as an inferential statistic, not a descriptive statistic. So that's kind of what's coming. Again, as always, if you have any questions, let me know. I will be posting in the next couple days some of my responses to your muddiest points. I kind of want to weight it, and I'm going to do them kind of in a chunk. And so I wanted to be able to cover as many of the chapters as I can before the exam is due. So these will be short videos just going over some of the things that people found that they were having a difficult time understanding from the material in the chapters. So good luck this week. And as always, as many of you have already been doing, reach out to me if you have any questions, and we'll help you out. One thing I do also want to point out, and that is that there is our first deep dive is due this Sunday, and it's the deep dive descriptive statistics. This is our first chance to use the statistics program Jamovi. And so the assignment has, a lot of information about this, and what it's referencing is you can, we have our research project, and our research project is where you're going to do your own little research study. You can use this deep dive for the descriptive statistics as your research project. So you can gather your own data here, run descriptive statistics on it, and then you've already got your data for your research project taken care of. You don't have to do that. You can always change the topic and what data you use for your research project later on. But partly in terms of that, because the research project allows you to work in pairs if you want, you can do this assignment in pairs as well. So if you're going to end up doing this with a partner, or do the research project with a partner, you could do this one together and submit one for each of you. So submit one with both of your names on it, and I will give each of you the grade. So just be aware of that, and the instructions. So there's some instruction in the assignment itself, and then there's more specific instructions of how to use Jamovi here, where it says deep dive descriptive statistics. This takes you to a Google Doc that walks you through all the steps of how to use Jamovi and do the work on Jamovi. And then just at the end here in step 8, there's some questions that I want you to answer about the data. So this is, I don't want you to just run the data. I want you to interpret it, to try to understand what the data is telling you. So that's there. And then it's also, it's also here, the questions are repeated in the assignment itself. Okay. And then once you have that, it's one document, you upload that one document, or if you need more than one document, because sometimes getting the output from Jamovi onto a document sometimes is hard for people. So again, you might have to take pictures and other things to get it on there. But then you'll just upload that to this assignment. Again, if you have any difficulties with that, let me know. And then if you're wanting to work in pairs and it's kind of hard in an online class, you can post in at the end of week 2, you'll see an open class discussion board. You can post on here that you're looking for somebody to work with on the project. And you may not get somebody in time to do the deep dive descriptive statistics, but you might be able to get them in time by the end of the class to do the research project. So check out the open class discussion board as a way to maybe communicate with other students to work in pairs. All right, have a great week, and good luck on exam 1.